Good afternoon, colleagues. Today, we will discuss why businesses should engage in the gender agenda, what benefits there are for a gender-balanced company, and what methods can be used to address gender imbalances. To begin with, let's figure out what gender balance actually is. Gender equality is about equal access to rights, opportunities, and resources. But how can this be quantified? What ratio can be considered fair? Shall we strive for gender parity, that is a 50-50 ratio, or is this balance unique for every company? The International Labour Organization says that gender balance is achieved when the ratio of employed men and women correlates with the general proportion of men and women across the country, so that all have equal opportunities to work, which ratio is indeed 50-50 in most countries. What steps can a company take to achieve gender balance? The first and key step is to analyze and monitor data on specific aspects, including recruitment policies, wages, promotions, and other processes. Statistics are crucial here, helping identify problems and begin keeping an eye on indicators that signal gender discrimination. Key indicators can include the share of women at different levels of a hierarchy, pay rates and turnover rates, including pay gap between men and women in similar positions, and the share of women who got promoted out of the total candidates pool compared to men. Collecting and analyzing gender data helps identify possible reasons of high staff turnover, poor loyalty, and problems with trust and freedom of expression within the team. The next step is to set goals and develop a human resources strategy that respects the principle of workforce diversity and inclusivity. The principles of gender equality are formalized in the company's key regulatory documents. Upon analysis of specific problems, goals are set to increase the number of women in the company as a whole, or at certain level of the corporate ladder, to identify problematic areas, and to create an environment for growth in such areas. In traditionally male-dominated industries such as manufacturing, a target of 30% can be a good starting point. There is, for example, the 30% Club, global initiative that brings together corporations in more than 20 countries, from Australia to Mexico. Participants in the initiative aim to increase the number of women on boards of directors to at least 30%. The club provides access to a mentoring program, opportunities for professional development for women on boards, as well as access to business education and investments. According to the International Energy Agency, companies that make efforts towards achieving gender balance have a higher share of women on their boards. This slide here shows the difference. This suggests that focused efforts at improving gender balance actually work. By having special gender balance policies and monitoring process, a company demonstrates that gender equality is not just a declaration, but a real strategic business objective that lies at the core of its values and activities. A very important step towards overcoming gender inequality is direct implementation of policies and procedures aimed at reducing gender bias in recruitment, mentoring, promotion, and other structures and processes. According to a study by Workplace Gender Equality, gender stereotypes often influence the selection of candidates for certain roles, the negotiation of compensation, the way managers give feedback to their employees, and the distribution of career opportunities and incentives among employees. Communication is important in this. For example, gender-biased wording in job advertisements may not only discourage individual women from applying for certain positions, but may also reinforce stereotypes about gender affiliation of certain positions. That is, in the early stages of the recruitment process, it is important to use gender-neutral, inclusive language and avoid making explicit references to gender characteristics in job descriptions. Having standards in the interview process is key to ensuring non-discrimination in recruitment. A standardized interview means following a list of questions to help determine a candidate's suitability for the position and eliminate unnecessary questions, including those that may exacerbate bias. Expanding the candidate pool for recruitment is another effective measure. Unilever, for example, uses a special program called Pymetrics to anonymously assess candidates' skills through short online tests. Some industrial and IT companies that traditionally have difficulty attracting women, such as IBM, now start promoting their HR brands as early as in primary and secondary schools, to let girls and their teachers know early on about professional opportunities in science and technology. A similar structured and transparent approach is used to combat the gender pay gap. Transparent salary policies imply that companies keep an open stance on how their compensation structures are shaped. In some cases, this effort results in positive impact on pay gap, giving employees confidence that their compensation is fair and non-discriminatory. At the end of the day, it encourages greater productivity and cooperation among colleagues. The next step is publishing the reports and disclosing the data. Organizations using the GRI Global Reporting Initiative international guidelines disclose information on gender representation as part of the general disclosure, a standard known as G1, as well as the social indicators disclosure, the G3 standard. Some companies release their own reports devoted to the diversity and inclusivity, non-discrimination, and gender balance. Thus, information on gender balance can be shared with the public as part of the general annual reports, corporate sustainability reports, as well as within specialized reports on diversity and inclusivity. Such reports also include information on non-discrimination based on nationality, ethnicity, gender, and age. The French company EDF, for instance, discloses the company's gender balance information as part of a specialized report. Due to the company's systemic efforts, the proportion of women in management has doubled since 2002. The company has set a target of 33% representation of women in the workforce overall and on executive level by 2026. In 2021, the proportion of women in the group reached 26% and the proportion of women in executive positions was almost 30%. It is worth noting that there have been cases of consumers reacting negatively to companies' disclosure of existing pay gaps. The best way to avoid such reactions is to be prepared to respond to possible criticisms or to develop a strategy and an action plan towards reducing the pay gap. Another important step is creating an environment that is conducive to career development and growth. Establishing formal career development programs that include mentoring, coaching, and support and development tools help organizations guarantee their employees equal access to opportunities. The most effective instrument is mentoring, where mentors share their experience and skills, helping bring to life the mentee's individual professional growth plan. That way, with the support of a mentor, a more experienced person who can help with career development, provide ideas and career solutions, and give feedback, employees can overcome the glass ceiling or sticky floor syndrome and significantly boost their work performance. Another way of expanding the female talent pool is through career programs, where women are the key target audience. Professional communities are the perfect environment to build and nurture career-boosting informal ties and connections. For example, the women of the nuclear industry community at Rosattom already united over 1,000 female professionals. The community collaborates with other organizations dedicated to supporting women in different industries and actively engages with women in the cities where Rosattom is represented. An important issue that is often raised in the gender agenda is the question of balancing women's professional and family responsibilities. Support during maternity leave and while family members are ill is something that women are particularly concerned about. A long break in a woman's career path, maternity leave requires active effort to ensure that women return to work and prevent its negative impact on their career and professional growth. According to Rosstat, Federal State Statistics Service of Russia, 28% of women change jobs after their maternity leave is over. Most often, this move is dictated by the need for a more flexible work schedule. On average, Russian women are on maternity leave for about 2.5 years. Best practices for managing maternity leave include keeping in touch with female co-workers throughout the entire maternity leave period, holding personal meetings before and after the leave, make sure that the woman is suited to return to work, keeping an eye on salary and bounds increases in subsequent years after the return to work. Some companies introduce special guidelines explaining how to deal with employees when they leave for maternity or create special training courses on the subject. The fact that women may take career breaks to have children should be taken into account for better planning of career and development for women. For example, the Turkey-based Borusan Group Steel Company offers its female employees the Gender Lens program, which provides for a maternity allowance, a health insurance policy, covering also the actual delivery costs, maternity leave for up to 5.5 months, maternity and postnatal support program, days off on the first and last days of school years, and flexible working arrangements. Another aspect of the gender imbalance is the so-called maternity burden. This is a situation where the working mother's level of professionalism, loyalty and ambition tend to be underrated because of the risk of them potentially or actually taking a maternity leave. An important aspect of this problem is that women carry the double burden of domestic and work duties. According to Eurostat, almost 70% of women in Central and Eastern Europe do household chores every day, and almost 40% of women do unpaid care work for family members, children, elderly, or disabled, spending twice as much time as men. So working women essentially work 2 shifts at work and home, the latter shift being unpaid. The solution to this issue lies not so much with the employer, but rather with adjusting the social gender role contract. For example, through gradually converging the gender roles in the household, like increasing men's involvement in raising children, caring for elderly relatives, and doing household chores. That would mean, though, that women's obligations regarding financial independence and providing for the family are increased. Equally important is changing the social attitude towards single mothers and fathers. Increasing the effectiveness of state, charitable, social, psychological, and medical support to socially vulnerable groups, pregnant women, children, the elderly, and the disabled, become crucial as well. So, the key takeaways from this session. Studies show that there is a significant imbalance in the representation of women in the economy and business, as well as in executive positions. Besides, there is the so-called pay gap, a difference in remuneration between men and women. Gender imbalance is not just a manifestation of discrimination lodged in societal norms. It also stifles economic opportunities for women and children and prevents them from being fully engaged and represented in the life of the society. Gender imbalance has economic consequences, ranging from women's underrepresentation in the labor market to lost profits and affected GDP. Overcoming gender imbalance brings a positive multiplier effect for businesses. Adherence to the principles of gender equality and active efforts towards closing the gender pay gap help organizations to attract and retain the best talent while improving employee engagement, commitment, and motivation, boost their employee potential, and make the most out of it. Improve the company's sustainability ranking, as well as its profile and reputation inside and outside of the corporation. This is important now more than ever. Shareholders and stakeholders, partners and consumers, including young people, pay close attention to where companies stand on important issues and what values they communicate to the world. And this is the end of the lecture. See you soon.